Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. It's time for another Tech Talk. And last week we had a pretty good one, talking about a bunch of random stuff, which was pretty cool. And discussing, of course, the new updates and also many different things that people either want to see or want to get changed. And it was nice, I thought last week's was pretty good. So let's continue and just have a pretty decent time. The way that these Tech Talk works, by the way, is we go through the comments of the previous Tech Talk and basically just talk about what is put there. And if you have any questions or if you have any thoughts, just stick them in the comment section so we can kind of go through them. At the same time, if you want to participate live, you can do so since we do record it live on Twitch. And also, I saw a few people asking, like, well, why do I play Naval during these things? Well, first of all, I do like to, grind Naval just like everything else. But also at the same time, it's easier to play compared to the rest of it. So I can kind of like turn my brain off and then focus on what is ahead of me, which is, quite important at the end of the day. So let's get into it. Let's get started and let's have a decent time. So the first one is from Maxwell, and Maxwell did all of the timestamps. So thank you to Maxwell. As I said previously, if people want to do this stuff, then I can give you, games codes like Steam codes, or I can give, different things. I think when it came to this, gave Maxwell a few games. So if you are interested in doing things like that, like the timestamps, I can give you stuff for it. It's just I don't have time specifically to do it myself. Just to let you know. Nice to see you, Frog. Nice to see you, Gingerbread. Hopefully you're doing well today. Hopefully life is good. Right, let's go into the first one. This is from Gabromon, which I feel like is a Pokemon because it's a pretty fun name. I like it. It's a good pick. Hi Tech, hope you're doing well. Yeah, doing all right. Like, can't be mad, I think is probably the way to put it. Good week, and got all the dev server stuff. Waiting for the next updates, and also waiting for the sales, I think. So, kind of just ready to get into it, and ready to get everything sorted when it comes to the content creation. Is that really what, like, okay, let's just put it down to this, Jesus. These guns are so loud, like, when using them to fire, it's just nuts. I think, nah, we'll leave it how it is. And, we'll just kind of go from there. I suppose it's nice to have a bit of background noise. But no, everything's going good. Just looking forward to new challenges as we go forward. I just wanted to hear your opinion on the fact that for the 8th time in a row, the naval reward for the Battle Pass is a coastal vehicle. While I do enjoy coastal in small doses, I believe that this is way too unbalanced in favor of the coastal side of things, rather than the blue water stuff. And while I understand that coastal is way less popular than blue water, and they're trying to keep it afloat, pun intended, as much as possible, it's a shame to not see a proper ship in them for over a year now. I think they... If you have a look at what they've done over the last year, so the way that I like to see these things is as a collective. So I don't see an individual decision when it comes to the battle pass. I see it as part of like the whole decision of how they're adding separate stuff to separate things. So for example, when you have a look at the battle pass, and when you see that everything is a coastal, then you've got to think about, well, why could that be? Well, so we know that naval, just as a game mode, is usually a little bit less popular than other modes. So if they decide that the high tier, or if they decide that something like a cruiser has to be a battle pass vehicle, it has to be a premium. And also, since it's a cruiser, it pretty much has to be rank 3, which is something they've liked to do with the Battle Pass vehicles because they want them used in events and also used in other areas. So, my feeling is, what they're doing with the Battle Pass is they're adding in the coastal vehicles because it makes more sense for that to be the more minor vehicle for the Battle Pass instead of the major vehicle. And then also, at the same time, the other thing that they do, which, as I said, you got to see it as kind of like a collective thing, they don't just add the coastal stuff to the Battle Pass. If you have a look at every single event that has been around over like the last, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years, something like that for War Thunder, you could make the same case for them only having blue water, things, like only having blue water prizes for these standard events. So now you have a situation where you only have blue water stuff for the standard events. Why is that? That isn't fair to coastal players. Why is that the way that it is? And it's because it's the major prize, and they removed the other prize from the event. Like, when was the last time we had a coastal prize for a standard event? So, can anybody remember, by the way, like, who's watching? Because I feel like every single one of them has been a blue water prize over, like, the last period of time for, like, the summer event, the winter event, and the Build-A-Bear events, right? So if you take it into the context of looking at the whole calendar, instead of just the Battle Pass thing, basically what you end up doing is realizing that they're adding in a ton of blue water stuff and also adding in a ton of coastal stuff. They're just doing it in different areas of the game. And that's how for them it's been working. So if they decide that in events have to be more based around, you know, coastal vehicles, so therefore let's say we do 50-50 coastal to blue water, then your major prize was something for something like the let's say the winter event this year. Imagine if it was the HMS Archer instead of whatever cruiser they're going to do, right? So that is the way that I kind of see it. I think it's just the fact that, like, if you look at it in completeness. So let's actually have a look, right? So War Thunder summer event. So the Summer Extreme was the one. Let's just see. Is there like a list of like events for War Thunder? I've absolutely no idea how any of this works. So let's go War Thunder summer events. Oh, I've completely spelled that wrong. Oh no, winter event, sorry. Does anybody remember what the Build-A-Bear event was last year? Or sorry, this year? Like, we had the Takushu, but I mean the one earlier in the year. So if you have a look at, like, so the winter event from, well, this is from 2021. So it was the High-End Army, and then you had the MPK PR201K, right? So that was back when you had two vehicles, per area. If you have a look at the winter quest for 2022, you have the Newport News, and that's it. So coastal players just straight up lose out. They just don't get anything from that. And then you have a look at the Takushu Heike event, which was, you know, the one recently. Oh, it's a blue water ship again, the Kurama. And then also the summer event. What did you have? That was right. It was the Renown. And then I'm pretty sure. Does anybody remember what as I said, what was the crafting event from like earlier this year, which wasn't the Tuko Tahuku thing? I honestly can't remember what it is. No, there we go. But whatever it was, I'm sure that at the end of the day, like, it's just one of those things which will have also been a blue water thing, right? If it wasn't a minor thing. The Chebakov? I mean, yeah, that sounds about right, I think. Like, I'd have to look in, like, the hangar itself. But, like, so, basically, if you actually look at the events that we have in the year, and then also contrast them to the battle passes. So we have 4 battle passes a year. We also have 4 major events a year. The summer, the winter, and the 2 crafting events, plus other events in tow. It actually balances out. So you have the same amount of blue water, you know, events / premium vehicles as you do coastal premium vehicles. So yeah, if you want to mix and match them, you can. But I feel like people wouldn't be happy with that, because no matter which side you decide to like try and look after or whatever, like there's always going to be people who are unhappy with it. So yeah, kind of sucks. But that's pretty much why. Which is why so one of the most important things in War Thunder is to try and look at stuff as a whole system. So instead of trying to look at things from like an individual point of view, like why did this nation get this one vehicle, try and work out why does this nation get this vehicle compared to this one, which also has this one and this one and this one and this one, and then what about this other nation which is sat over here, which hasn't got anything either? Why did they not get anything? What are the plans in the future? What are the plans in the past? Try to basically follow trends of stuff like that, and it will help you immensely when you start, like, you know, properly thinking about all of these ideas and where these vehicles, you know, end up or move from. It's all just trying to balance between the two areas, right? Like, that's the whole point of it. So then we have Paul. So let's have a look at Paul. I loved playing boats in Naval Arcade, but then the devs decided to split damage models of boats and ships, which may have had its own logic. Autocannons were too effective against ships, and it broke the balance of vessels in the game. The damage model has no effect on the BR of the vessel. Anyway, I modified my boat's playstyle and started hiding from vessels that used the ship damage model, and it worked quite well. Of course, I couldn't do much about ships, but I could still have some fun fighting other boats. And then the devs decided to add big waves to some battles. This move completely killed the boats for me. Some lighter and smaller boats in some battles rock so much in the waves that like 90% of your shots miss the target. The worst thing is that it doesn't affect all vessels the same way. It depends on the vessel's size and weight, which makes the game even more imbalanced. When I wrote my thoughts on this change on the forum, I was attacked by many players with favors like learn to play and just get better. The funniest thing is, some of these guys didn't even play naval. Pretty much none of them played boats. Some also used the realism argument, but most of the maps in the game are actually closed water maps with rocks and islands almost everywhere. I don't see anything realistic about being basically a storm on the lake. It's even questionable whether boats would sail out during a storm in real life. Well, that's the big thing, right? Like people who ask for these adverse weather conditions, like all they have to do is like read about the fact that, well, just go and have a look at the Normandy landings. Like, if you can pick any operation in history, but just pick that one, and then work out, like, when these adverse weather conditions exist, battles don't happen. You know, sometimes battles happen because of the adverse weather conditions, because it means that certain types of vehicles can't be used. But yeah, weather plays a huge part in these things. I wouldn't mind big waves in open maps at high BRs, but big waves at low BRs completely kill boats. Experience for me. Fortunately, I've already spaded all of them, so I don't really need to play them anymore. But good luck to anyone looking to spade all their boats these days. I can imagine the frustration. Yeah, it's I completely agree with everything that Paul said. Basically, like the simple fact is there are times where I play stuff like the Fairmile, for example, like the LCS, because I'm trying to spade the damn thing. And you got to remember, like, they have the high mod cost now because they're technically seen as equal as the Blue Water stuff because they're seen as, you know, two separate tech trees. And there will be matches where I'm just sat there firing the secondaries because, well, the front gun is not very good. And you basically just can't hit anything because your vehicle is just going like this in the water, and this is experienced by a ton of coastal vehicles. So what ends up happening is more of just an RNG game than anything else, and then there are people who are asking for more of this RNG-ness because they play larger ships and don't understand that there has to be a mix of two types of gameplay, and they just want to see, like, you know, random weather conditions. Like, even in this map right now, like, look how much the water's moving, and also the fact that it's raining and stuff. Here's your adverse weather conditions. But the balance between the boat stuff and the blue water stuff is incredibly poor. But that's another story for another time, because it comes down to like map design and what the game was like based around to start with in naval, and you know, all of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, we talked about it last time. Adverse weather effects, you know, which affect gameplay, just increase the amount of RNG, and also mean that people who don't have, you know, incredibly good PCs or the ability to just screw with their graphics settings so they can see better, get screwed. And I don't want to put more barriers between people, between people, and how, you know, they can play the game, just because some people want it to look more awful, you know? Do you think we'll get modern ships in the future? We already have a lot of modern ships, and yes, we will. Why is Hungary in the Italian tree? It would make more sense to put them in the German tree. No, it wouldn't actually. The reason why Hungary is in the Italian tree is pretty simple. Hardly anybody played Italy or plays Italy, and a ton of people play Germany. So the idea is you add them to Italy, since there are ties between them, and to try and influence people to play the tech tree. There's no point in adding sub-tech trees to nations that are already really strong and already played by the vast majority of people. The idea of adding a sub-tech tree to something is not just a historical one, but it's actually mainly a balance one, which will be understood at some point by most people. So we have Lewis. Greetings, Tech. Greetings! You had an interesting idea for healing crew members, but there would definitely need to be two charges for the ability, or just replace all but only once. The test drive should have a selector, so one could see how they would fare against one specific tank in actual combat, and not just the penetration simulator. Anyways, apology for your very cold feet. Hope you can warm them before the rest of Canada freezes. See you later. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. Alberta got a huge snowfall, but nah, we'll be fine. My feet are okay. Like, you just spilled your breakfast over yourself? Oh dear. Tough times. I had some pancakes this morning. Love me some pancakes. But no, in my area, it doesn't get crazy cold like a lot of Canada, so it's okay. Like, generally is fine. Like, it rains a lot, but it doesn't freeze over that often. We'll be good over here. The interesting thing about the test drive thing is, yeah, I think it would be nice to see it more player orientated. Like, technically you can like use a mission stuff like that in, but I would prefer a different system where there was just more that you could choose. You know, they've tried to improve it over the years, and I think the improvements they've made are very good, but at the same time, they're improvements which are still stationary or stagnant, is probably the way to do it. Meaning that even though they're improvements to what we had before, you still have to do it in the way that Gaijin wants you to do it, where I think it should be a system similar to how, like, you know, the aiming sights and reticles in the game are, where it should be a bit more player-driven, because the experience that people want in the test drive is very different to each other, so... How do you fire the gun sequentially? So if you go to controls, and then if you go to this one here, ranging shot, and then just hold this one down instead of using this. So just hold this, and it will fire them individually, like this. And it means that you can actually change your... it means that you can change your accuracy, or, you know, change where your guns lay while you fire. It's pretty good. I like it. But yeah, I'd like the test drive to be more customizable. But there's a lot of the game I'd like to be more customizable, if I'm honest with you. Like, that's the big thing, right? Like, I would like to have the customizable hangar. I would like to have the customizable test drive. I would like to be able to have more options in the mission editor and more, you know, single mission dynamic campaign content. You know, stuff like that. But no, instead we get loading screen for night battles. So hope you enjoy. Then we have Type 10. So let's see what Type 10 says. I do need to try and hit this guy. There you go. Well done, 152s. Hey Tech, hi. The Tiger's going to 6-0 is cool, since now I can pop their ammo better. Also, can't wait for the F2 for Japan to come, even if it's too early, since it's very modern. The M109 had a big fan base wanting it. Can't wait to see their reaction when their shell does nothing because of a tiny error. Yeah. It literally is. Previously, we had to pixel hunt. Now it's just straight up RNG. Like, with those things. Also, I'm not sure if it's true, but I heard the Swedish underline top tier Leopard is better than the 2A6. Japan finally getting the top tier SPA is nice. The 2 ammo boxes on each side looks funny. Have a nice day. I will do. You do too. Yeah, the F2. I mean, we're getting closer and closer to the F2, aren't we? Like that's the big thing. It's slowly but surely getting here. Is probably the way to put it. So that's pretty awesome. Nice to see that that we're gonna get there sooner rather than later. You know, with the F-16s being added and obviously the MiG-29s, we're slowly but surely rumbling to that point. So should be pretty good. Talking about the two vehicles, so the 2A6 and the PLSS. So the PLSS, the difference with it is the armor package that's on it. It's kind of hard to show, but you see how it has like this chunky armor on the front. Not this, like I believe the composite's exactly the same, but you see how it has like this armor here, like this extended armor on the front, where if you take it off, it shows like the midriff. So this bit, you can see how it changes color, like this here. This is 100mm of composite screen, whereas if you have a look at the 2A6, which is here, it doesn't have that. So it only has like this little bit of composite screen, but it doesn't have it on the front. So the armor is a lot worse on the standard 2A6 compared to the PLSS. Now, what used to be true is the 2A6 had this round, the DM53, right, with the long-barreled 120, the L55, and it penned 6.52, 550, 377, which is it's a very good round, right? And at some point I'll get to spading it. But if you have a look at the PLSS, it used to only have access to the DM23. Then they gave it the DM33, and then they gave it the Slurpager M95, which pens 589, 497, 340. So they improved its round quite significantly, and it still has the additional armor. And also everything else, and the PLSS system on the top where it can boop, boop, boop. So it can, this bit, it can go up and down. So it's just got additional armor, and the things that it used to be worse at than the standard 2A6, it no longer is because they upgraded its round, and also they fixed the reload rate. The reload rate on these two vehicles used to be different because they tried to balance the vehicles with that reload, but now they're the same. So like the 2A6 and the 2A5 used to have a longer reload, and so did the PSO, or the PLSS, sorry. So yeah. Hey Messi, nice to see you. Hopefully everything's good. I see you too, Chanwitz. So yeah, that's pretty much why the 122 is better. It just has an upgraded armor package compared to the standard Leopard. The thing that actually makes the 286 nicer though now is that it's not an end of the line vehicle, so it's just easier to grind, and that does make quite a lot of difference, at least to players like me at a high tier. I'm sure it doesn't to others who just use stuff, but yeah, it's obviously a different story. But yeah, the M109 is quite funny because as someone who's spaded a lot of these donkey machines, I'm in the process of spading the second 2S1. It's the simple fact that they're just, I don't know, when they work, they're fun. When they don't work, they're not fun. And you also just can't push with them or do anything like that, which, you know, kind of sucks. So hopefully, going forward, we can, now that everybody has them and everybody has all them sorted, hopefully there can be a good time with it, because that's obviously what we're trying to focus on at the end of the day. So simple as. All right, let's see Away With You, Valbega. So we can have a look at this one. Let's see. Let's just go in. There we go. Bum, bum, bum. Just need to turn first because this map is it's very small, so we need to get to the right position quickly. Right, there we go. So, hey TEC, good to hear everything as well. Yeah, everything's good. You know, everything is good. at the end of the month, everything's paid. You know, food in the fridge, money in the bank, roof over the head. That's all I need. I'm a very simple man with simple stuff. At the end of the day. Let's see. Seeing how we talked about CNC, besides the old games, there seems to be like 2 or 3 games that are either coming soon next year or in the making that gave me the good RTS feel when I saw footage and concepts. One of them is Tempest Rising. Yeah, Tempest Rising looks cool. It's basically by the people who made, or at least by some of the people who made Command and Conquer, and it looks pretty much the same. I played the demo actually, or you know, the sneak peek or the test or whatever. It was like the first mission. It was pretty simple. They're adding a ton of crazy mechanics, so we'll see how it goes. They even released a demo. Yeah. Nonetheless, I can safely say my childhood was filled with amazing RTS games. StarCraft, CNC, Rise of Nations. It's a good thing these old RTS games were built to last, because for example, I still have my old copy of Age of Empires 2, and God, the feelings I get when I start the game and hear that iconic theme are hard to explain. Anyway, I hope you have a great week, Tech, and thanks for nostalgia. Gonna go play some old AoE and spam Longbowman against AI. Sad to hear Tech is busy. I was wondering why he's gone. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's always... like, that's the thing about, like, the internet stuff, right? Like, at the end, it always comes secondary to real life stuff, which is what it should do, but it can be sad sometimes. The interesting thing about the old RTSs is, I agree, like, I'm so happy that so many of them are sustainable. Or maybe not sustainable, but they work on newer systems. Like, the only one more recently I've ever had an issue with is what do you call it? I had an issue with getting Command and Conquer Tiberium Wars to work, but hey MJ, nice to see you, man. Oh, you got them? Nice one. Well done, man. So what do you call it? For some reason, the resolution that I run at, which is like a very basic one, like 1920 by 1080, it just wasn't having it. So I had to change the game, you know, like the text file. I can't remember which one it is. I just had to change it so it actually had it in it. But it worked. Like, everything was good. It kind of sucks that a lot of those old games that I used to play just don't work on modern systems. But luckily RTSs are one of those things that do. And there's a bunch of games that I am looking forward to over the next few years. Like, if some of them are in like early access, like Land of the Vikings literally just came out, which is one, you know, that I've talked about previously as something which is quite enjoyable as like as an idea. And then also at the same time, you know, just a few others. I played not the Morticians, the Mortuary Assistant the other day for Halloween. That one was pretty fun. It's also like $20. It's one of those games which technically doesn't take too long, but it puts you in a randomly generated scenario over and over again, and you have to try and find out the endings for the game. So that's how it works. It's not one which is just like designed so you only go through it once. I think there's like 6 endings. I found like 3 of them pretty easily, but yeah, there's a bunch of other ones which are there. But yeah, I mean, right now when it comes to games, we're in a really cool time. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff. Like, it seems like the pandemic, since gaming or making video games is one of those things that you can do pretty effectively from home, right? Like, most companies worked from home during that time. Like, it's not like a sales job or anything like that. You can just develop stuff as long as you have a pretty powerful PC, and you know, you don't have to worry about anything going wrong. And like, it seems like it was kind of like a golden era to be able to create a bunch of these stuff. So even though things were delayed, it's nice to see, like, you know, they're slowly trickling out and coming. And so many different independent games, which is nice, made by just like 1 or 2 people, which is just really nice. Like, Bramble the Mountain King was definitely one of my favorite games of the year, and that was just like a standard platformer with beautiful music and, you know, it just felt really nice. It reminded me of Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, which was also just another fantastic game, which is kind of around there. It's nice. It's nice to have like little breaks every once in a while from War Thunder and to try and play different stuff and have a good time. I think it's important to not get sucked into just playing the same thing over and over and over again. Like when there's so many different things which are just there to enjoy and chat about and discuss, it's always important to cover that stuff and, you know, have a good look at a bunch of different things. It's nice. So let's have a look at the next one. We have Zuna. With the addition of the Bishmar and its mine plow, I wonder if/when other tanks will get it. Also, would be cool for more loitering munitions to be added. Well, they added a metric ton of spades a while ago to a bunch of different vehicles. So, like for example, they added a metric ton to a bunch of different things when it first came out. Like pretty much all the Soviet vehicles got their plows and stuff. But at the same time, like I don't know if they're gearing up to add in stuff like mines, because they did add, of course, the mine protection modifications to some of the vehicles. But I think it's more than likely we get some kind of mechanic which is similar to that. Or at least has something to do with that pretty soon. I'm hoping that they don't add mines, because it's just another thing on the battlefield. Well, I know they added them already in naval, but I mean in ground, right? Because in ground they're just going to be a pain. I'm hoping that stuff isn't there like that. I hope that they decide to not add random things to blow you up. But then again, they've added a bunch of things that do that, so never mind. The major thing with stuff like the ground clearer and things like that, I'm pretty sure they're going to add more to different vehicles. I always thought they were going to do them as like mini event vehicles. So like, oh, you want the Sherman with the dozer? Oh, that's cool. So we're going to do a D-Day event, and you can get this special Sherman which has access to a dozer, or we're going to give you a DD Sherman, which we have the model for, because there's a decoration for naval which is literally just the DD Sherman. Like I honestly thought that's what they were going to do for like mini events kind of going forward, but instead right now what we have, which is kind of a bit more depressing actually thinking about it. Hey Papa Stalin, nice to see you. Is we have like a setup where they've just decided to add they've just decided to do, hey, so happy whatever day, here's a G premium you can buy, which is too expensive. So that's like the one that they've gone for. You know, those like little sales that they do. And I'd much prefer it if they just did more like little events where it's like, hey, so play like, I don't know, 20 matches and get X amount of kills and you get this Sherman with the scoop. I think that would be much more interesting. But c'est la vie. What are you going to do at the end of the day? Hopefully at some point they can try and like change up those things to at least be a little bit more interesting. I don't know about mines in ground though. As I said, I don't think it will be positive, but over the last few years, like we talked about the fact that if you can think of anything, it will come, right? Like if you can think of an idea, it will turn up, and we have definitely seen that happen over the last period of time. They've just gone bongo with all of the ideas that people have ever thought of. So yeah. So we have Hafgan, great content as always. Thank you. That's very kind of you. It's been really nice the last few months. You know, we've been pumping pretty hard. Like when I think about the amount of stuff that I've been putting out and trying to improve the quality of everything, and you know, there's been a lot of effort put in this year to improve a lot of the primary stuff that we do. So like a lot of the videos and, you know, some like streaming stuff and everything. And what I'm gonna do next year is, now that I'm really happy with a lot of the primary stuff, we're gonna start pumping once again a lot of the auxiliary stuff, so a lot of the secondary stuff. So the second channel has content which is scheduled all the way to like mid 2024, I believe. So I'm gonna make sure that that is all up to date, and then also at the same time, gonna start doing the TikTok stuff again, the YouTube short stuff again, and also probably the multi-streaming stuff as well. So we'll be able to focus on everything. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be pretty fun. I'm looking forward to January because that's when I'm gonna bring in all of these changes. Finally found somebody to actually manage some things, so it should be quite nice. Thank you for the raid, Alex. That's very kind of you. Hopefully you're doing alright today. Nice to see you, Teddy. Hopefully life's good. When are we getting the subway surfer in the background for the talking vids? It'd be a real upgrade. I mean, that is true. So we have something one. G'day Tech, no question, just excited for the pancake tank. The IT1 is one of my faves, although the guidance changes do hurt. You have a good day, mate. I will do, you too. I'm looking forward to see it as well, because I want to see how it justifies its BR. Very true, Alex. Nearly at 200k, baby. But I want to see how it justifies its BR. Because when I look at it, I just don't see 9.3. What I see is, I see a vehicle that's probably an 8790. But we'll see what goes on. The Sturm S, when it was added, was massively over BR'd. It was at, I believe, 9.3 at the time, and this was before the decompression, by the way. So imagine the fact that we've had like 3 or 4 sets of decompression, and the Sturm S has gone down by 2 BR brackets. So technically, it's actually more gone down by like 3 or 4 because of the decompression stuff, right? That's how bad it was at launch, and it had like a 12k repair cost. Like somebody in that office really likes these 80 gem carriers and massively overvalues them consistently. So when I look at it and I compare it to the T64, right? Which is at the same BR as it, I go, why do I take this over the T64? Like, I mean, maybe there'll be some points where the hydropneumatic might be useful. You know, maybe there'll be some points where it's so low that it actually fits a bit better. Maybe that's the way we can do it. But I just don't see it. I think it goes down in BR again. Because they also, if you haven't been keeping up with the data mines, they made a huge change. So they made a huge change to it. They massively nerfed the missiles. So the starting speed is lower. So it's going to take longer to get to the accelerated like speed. And then also they halved the max G overload. So now technically its guidance is halved. So that, I don't understand how that missile is a 9.3 missile. Especially when you're going to face composites, and it doesn't have a tandem warhead, and at the same time, it does get annihilated by stuff like, you know, passive countermeasure systems. Like, I honestly think that thing's in for a bit of a rude awakening if it stays at the BR it's had. It's been nerfed like 3 or 4 times before the last dev server. So I suppose we'll see what happens. Like, hopefully it'll be okay. Hey, Rusty Sniper, nice to see you. Congratulations on the win. Well done. Congratulations to South Africa for winning the Rugby World Cup final. One of the most boring matches I've ever watched, and unfortunately hampered by Kiwis getting themselves sent off. But yeah, Jesus. A very poor final. You know, I saw a stat the other day, which was quite interesting. So South Africa, it's either South Africa have played in 4 World Cup finals or they've won 4 World Cup finals. And a stat is they haven't scored a try in 3 of them. Which is just pretty naff. I mean, they scored against England, so at least there was that. Yeah, I watched the rugby. It was a good defensive game where it was just a grind game. Like, I would have liked New Zealand to win because I feel like they played better rugby during the tournament and actually funner rugby. But yeah, unfortunately the guy missed the kick, so what are you going to do? Lost it all. So we have Vigo, I'd love the plus or minus 0.7. It would make so many vehicles actually fun and playable instead of being up-tiered all the time, like 9.3. Well, we talked about plus or minus 0.7 last time and how it works. I'm not really going to go through it again. Like, it's a pretty simple idea. Like, it doesn't... Just like standard BR changes, or just like standard decompression, what it does is it just shifts where the meta BRs are. So, yes, it will help out certain BRs, but if you only play specific BRs, then yes, it will probably benefit you if you only play the ones that are benefited. But you also have to remember the whole idea of it being... you know, a game where people generally grind through the BRs and have a good time. So now, by that BR being in a good place, you have now nuked like 2 or 3 other BRs, right? So it just kind of sucks at the end of the day of like how all that stuff works. But yeah, I went through it last time about the plus or minus 0.7 and how, once again, it's just one of those things that isn't looked at in like the overall picture of things. Like with the whole BR decompression stuff and everything, but it is kind of how it is. Then we have Manuel Guedes. Hello, Tech. Hi. I need to grind a tree of France to get a rank 3 vehicle for the Age of Discovery challenge of the Battle Pass. What's your opinion of those 3 trees up to rank 3? What do you think will be the fastest to grind? I honestly think Navy is probably the fastest to grind. Because... a lot of the destroyers for France are actually pretty good. Like, all the ones which are French are good. They fit the meta really well, and there aren't a ton of them. So grinding through them wouldn't actually be too hard to do. It took me, I think, a day to be able to get through pretty much into rank 3 for France. Like, this vehicle, the Emile Batan, is actually a rank 4, which is kind of nuts. Hey, Effie Altis, nice to see you. Doing good, man. Just doing the tech talk and having a decent time. But the ground stuff, rank 1 of the French ground is just so weak. And it's just painful to get through. And just not fun at all. For France, like a lot of their lower tier stuff for air and ground is just bad. I don't know how else to put it. For aviation, they actually have the worst start to a tech tree out of pretty much all of them. Like you have only like the VG33 and the H75s that are actually any good. The rest are very poor. So I always say it is just not worth playing, like, unless you're like, once you get to rank 3 for the French in air, it's fine, but getting there is just, it is like pulling teeth. The ground one is a bit easier. Rank 1 is absolutely awful for France. Like, to a point where they removed a bunch of vehicles because it was so bad. And then if you actually get through rank 1, rank 2 is pretty good. You know, you have the M4105, you got the Stewarts, you have a decent combo there. And then once you get the SA50, you know, the Jumbo, things like that, it's not too bad. So generally what you have is you have either you play naval, which is definitely the quickest to get to rank 3. So you do that, and then you play a bunch of these destroyers which have access to very good AP on their guns, meaning that you can take out other destroyers very quickly, and then you can just kind of nuke stuff. The only one which has been a bit of a pain is doing that German destroyer, but that's fine, you know, it's not hard to do. So you do that, and then after that you can just do that, or you can play the aviation and just have a really rough rank 1 and 2, or you play ground where you are useless until you get into rank 2. So yeah, that's I would definitely actually go for naval, which I know isn't everybody's pick because of obviously the standard grind, but to be honest, I mean, you can see today with the amount of people who are playing at the moment, the queue times are pretty much 0 for all the different game modes, so I don't really ever worry about stuff like that. You don't even need a premium for things like naval to be able to grind everything out. Alright, so then we have the Duckzilla. The AM-1 was a really late 60s, early 70s missile. I can't imagine the F-1 or the F-104J. Heck, the J was already 10-7 before. So if you give it funny Japan missile, it would be really nice at 10-7 again. You just have to be careful. Yeah, just be careful, bro. You know? Just side climb, brother. Or just, but that was from, yeah, the Duxilla. Yeah, I mean, all of those vehicles where you have to be careful, just don't feel very good. I would rather just have a vehicle which is more balanced in its weaponry. Like, it's quite funny to me, right? Because, so there's so many vehicles around those BRs which, if they had countermeasures, would be much higher in BR, but also if they just limited their weaponry, they would be lower in BR, which would actually make them a little bit more fun. Like, and that's the big thing, right? It isn't just necessary. You don't, in order to balance something, you don't always need to give it better things, and that's been the key issue with War Thunder for the longest time. Like, in order to change stuff in a positive way, what has been decided to do always is just to add more stuff to it. And that doesn't work all the time. Well, a lot of the time it just doesn't work at all. So basically, it would actually be better for stuff like that if you actually took away some armaments from it. But then probably people would be annoyed, but they just wouldn't understand the context of it. Like an F-104J would be in a much better position if it didn't have the 6 AIM-9Js on it. If it, let's say, had, I don't know, 2 AIM-9Js, or just, you know, 4 AIM-9Es, or 2 AIM-9Es, it would be a much more fun vehicle to play, because it would be a BR which would actually work for it. But you'd have to take away something from people, and people don't like that. So yeah, it's just kind of how it is. Like, they're buffing the 104J again. So they're giving it 6 missiles now instead of 4. So it'll have more of the capability it was already good at, and not the issue. So now you're just gonna have to play it in exactly the same way as you did previously, and have exactly the same issues. So kind of sucks, but what are you gonna do? Unfortunately, countermeasures were not always believed in by all of these separate nations, which is very sad. So we have Ulfed Tierson. As far as crew healing, like 2 medkits would be useful. It's already goofy to think when they haven't added them, considering every vehicle in the game has absolutely no medical gear at all. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. They did try and add a similar system to it a while back. They tried to add, you know, something which would have functionally worked like it. They just made the mistake of trying to make it a premium modification. That was a long time ago, though. Maybe one day we'll do a trip down memory lane, which will go through like all of the different stuff that was going to be added but never got added, and you know, stuff to look at. You know, all the captured like premiums, all the funny vehicles like that were on those release trees back in the day. Like, we can do that. That'd be quite fun. Maybe I'll do it in January. It's definitely like it's definitely, you know, not content which really hugely matters, but it's stuff that's really fun to do. You know, kind of look at the history of War Thunder, like what was there, or what was thought about, or maybe like having like a decade look back of what was decided 10 years ago and how is it different to now. You know, that stuff like that might be very fun to do, because the history of the game is a pretty fun one. And anything that lasts for at least a decade is gonna have a bunch of really cool stuff involved in it. So it's always worth having a look at for me. I noticed when you scout more enemies in arcade battles, it helps the team more. So you don't mind UAV drones? I mean, that's fair. I think scouting is a really cool mechanic. Makes a lot of vehicles a lot better than people realize. You know, it's why a lot of light tanks started really going up in BR. Then we have Kiwi Flyer. Hey Tech, hello. When I'm customizing my aircraft, I get irritated, as when I want to add the letters on the side of British aircraft, German tanks, etc. There is no way for me to do this. What would be a good way to implement features like that? So you got one or two ways of doing it. Number one, you just do custom skins, which is what exists now, right? Like that's something that is possible to do and, already is there. Or what you do, which I think is actually the one which makes the most sense to do, but people don't want to do it because they want to show off their bling bling. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to make camouflages not viewable by other people. Because one of the reasons why they have limitations like that is simulator battles, right? So the issue we've had for many years is simulator battles have been rampantly abused in every single way in the game. Whether it be, queuing up at the same time, whether it be botting, whether it be, certain broken vehicles compared to others, because there just isn't enough of a player base to, fill out the other BR gaps. There's a ton of different ways how it's just been completely abused over the years. So if you give people the ability to put on whatever decals they want on different vehicles, they are going to troll people in simulator. They're just going to completely break how all of the stuff works, right? Like they're just going to make it so it just doesn't exist. So that to me is something which is key to this. So if you want to have more of like a universal decal use, or if you want more customization options, you just have to make it so it's invisible to other players. And that would be how you fix it. I mean, even in realistic, sometimes now I have to do like a 2-take, and I even know like the nameplate's there, but sometimes I can't see the nameplate, and like it just turns around and this guy just shoots me in the face, and it turns out I thought he was on my team, but he's actually on an enemy team. So it's just basically one of those things that has to be, if you want more customization, it has to be hidden. Which, I'm sure is fine, and I'm sure many people would be fine with. I mean, I'd personally be okay with. I don't really mind looking at a lot of vehicles in War Thunder and, what they look like and stuff like that. I think generally that's fine. But yeah, it's one of those things that has to be considered. Hey, Sneaky, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Happy Sunday. So we have Insane Robert, 44. Hey Tech, regarding War Thunder CDK, I've tried to deal with it for around 6 to 9 months ago, and my experience was kinda limited and disappointing. Except you can visualize and manage existing assets, I didn't find a way you can create new ones, especially vehicle models. Or maybe I was just an idiot who missed an obvious menu I was not aware of, which opened extra menus, options, and tools for it. You can technically implement your own models into the game, but the issue is it can then only be done from a solo point of view instead of a custom game cooperative point of view. So that can be done if you want to, but the question is, why would you want to do that if you're just trying to create a base game mode for stuff that's already in the game? Besides the CDK, in order to create anything new, you'd actually need to access to third-party tools or add-ons, especially for 3D models, more detailed camo skins, decals. Didn't try the mission. Yeah, but whoa. Like, why? Like, the thrust of the last point was about creating better maps or creating stuff inside the game's limits. The way that you do that is in the CDK. You don't have to add anything new. You just have to use the old stuff and show what can be done. If you are in, like, let's say a structure, like a corporate structure or something like that, one of the best ways to get your point across on what you want to see is to use pre-existing stuff in a new way to show people what can be done even with a small limited amount of resources, right? So basically what that ends up meaning is if you are able to create something with the resources that exist, which many people were able to over the years, such as Bismarck, for example, who was an insane map maker back in the day, what this means is in the future, when they look for new stuff or when they look for stuff to build, they can go to you with new assets and you can create stuff, right? But yeah, the way you can import new models into the game, you just have to give them pre-existing assets, which is another thing. You just have to label them as specific things so the game thinks it's that thing, but it actually is a separate model. I know it would be ludicrous to ask Guardian for every tool, an ability to make every asset in the game for free, but I'd like to address these limits from the CDK if you don't have access to these third-party tools or if you're not familiar with them. Because of my job and some other life-changing tasks I had to do this year, I had to postpone my desire to learn 3D modeling for game assets as a hobby. It's not like you can download it, screw around with some polygons, damage models, and functions inside a model, and boom, you've created something new within minutes. I mean, what you're trying to do is the whole point was map creation, right? And once again, the best people to talk about when it comes to this stuff is the people who are actually doing the thing that you want to do. So if you go to the War Thunder Live page, there are people who do already make all of these models. They have done this for many years, many of them, and they've done it for a long time, right? But I can't remember what it's called. Thank you for the subscription, Coffee Can. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Feature creep is a problem that many people have when it comes to creating products. What needs to be done is a base foundation of a product has to be approved and created, and then you start feature creeping. So in this setting, when I'm reading this comment, nice to see you, Donny B, all I see here is the idea of feature creep. So, okay, I want to create something new. Okay, but it needs to have new vehicles, it needs to have new damage models, it needs to have new features all over it. How about instead of worrying about all of that stuff, you create a base product and then you can start adding stuff onto it when you understand how that works. So if we're talking about like making a YouTube video, which is, you know, something which can be done from the most basic level or can be done on a higher end level, you start off with just a microphone, recording gameplay, putting it together, there you go, right? Or not even a microphone, it might just be getting the gameplay settings right and turning on OBS, right? So it's all about creating that foundation and then improving on it over and over again. And yes, this takes time, just like everything else in life. Yes, most people don't want to do it because you don't get paid for it, and also other people, you know, have stuff which ends up getting in the way, whether it be like family life or whether it be other stuff. But at the end of the day, if the passion is there and if you're actually mostly interested in it, it is time for you to do that thing. And you can get it done. There are many things for many years that I've done for free for a very long time. And I will continue to do for free for a very long time. Like, it's just about dedication. That's all. Alright. And we have Jerry. Let's see what Jerry says. Bum ba bam. Alright. Let's go over here. I don't like this map because the spawns are pretty tough. So I need to run away. A way that Gadget can fix one death leaving is if you have a single vehicle in your lineup, you'll be given 1 or 2 backups for every mission, like how the M51 gets 3 free backups. I know that Gadget gives 3 backups with the purchase of a premium vehicle, but once those run out, it's back to 1 death leaving. No, they'll just leave still. No, that doesn't work. We actually have some people in the community who are 1 death leavers, and you know, I just asked them their opinions on all of these changes that people put forward, and they still would just leave. Because the thing for them is not, like, a lot of them are actually high-end players. They're not these new noobs that everybody thinks that they are. And the reason is because they're grinding out a specific vehicle, but also they understand that if they die, especially at high tier in a specific way, if they spawn in again, they're going to be at such a disadvantage compared to where they could have been in a separate match. So for example, when I look at like my stats of what I class as a primary spawn vehicle compared to a secondary spawn vehicle. So the Object 435 is probably a good pick for this. So when I spaded out the Object 435, it was a really fun vehicle. It worked really well. But the vast majority of the time I was grinding it out, I was using it as a secondary spawn vehicle to the Object 685 because I wanted to spade out the Object 685. And I knew if I spawned the Object 685 in the secondary set, then I would do way worse in it because it's a vehicle which cannot deal with CAS. It will just die instantly. So, looking at the 435, because I was spawning it second instead of first, the stats on it were worse than they would have been if I was spawning it first. Because there are more threats in the air, and also it's more obvious where a person is after the first spawn because, well, there's only 2 places where you can spawn on the map, right? So CAS looks for you. And also other players know where you're coming from, and also they're in positions which are more defensive, and you have to move to a position where they can just stand still and you have no idea where any of them are. So a lot of like mature players, so, and I don't mean just like old, but like a lot of players who have played the game a lot, many of them have that mindset where it's like, well, there's no point in spawning in second because I'm just going to get hammered because I've been hammered so many times before and I just want to play this vehicle and nothing else. So if you give them the opportunity to play that vehicle again, they just won't. They're just not interested because they'll just get hammered again because they've done it so many times before. Like we've talked about this in the past. There's been many times for me where I've looked at a battle, especially at the high echelon. Maybe I've lasted for like 10, 8, 10, 15 minutes, with a vehicle. And I've been there, fighting the good fight, and then I die, and then I look at the map and I'm like, wow. I'm the only person who's actually done anything, or part of the map has just crumbled. So if I spawn in again, I'll just get hammered over and over again. And there's no point in spawning in again. But technically that's a one spawn, right? And I should just keep spawning in to feed other people kills, which when they've already won the battle. But that's no fun, Hey Gifted Greed, nice to see you. So that's the big thing for this. It isn't just the fact that the opportunity is not there for people. The opportunity is there for them to spawn more than once if they want to, especially a lot of these people at high tier who do it. You've got rid of the problem of these new premium players which, can't spawn a ton of times. They've given them a bunch of free backups, right? So that issue has been solved. So now, how do you deal with the people who do it not based on those things and actually do it based on other reasons? And this won't help. Because they do it for reasons that can't be changed. They do it based on experience and map position. Which is a lot harder to deal with. I can confirm I'm a one-def lever because I mainly play RRB. Nice to see you, Penguin Red. Nice to see you too, Oski. Hopefully you're doing alright today. Hopefully life's good. Nice to see you too, Bakatin. Also, regarding my comment on the last tech talk about more game modes for ground, I know that the CDK exists, but if I'm trying to grind or get tasks done, it can feel quite monotonous playing the same game modes. That's fair. The same comment still stands. Right. Comments I don't like. Or talking points I don't like. In general, just like getting it out there, like ambiguous comments. I want the game to be better. Why don't they fix bugs? Why don't we have better game modes? All of these comments, hey Holyroon, nice to see you, are worthless. Because they don't mean anything. It's like dealing with like a primal instinct. Because there is nobody on this earth who turns around and goes, you know what I don't want? I don't want bugs fixed. It's like as Alex says, we're there for all the good things and we don't like all the bad things. It doesn't mean anything. It's like a political statement. because there isn't anybody who's on the other side of the coin. There's nobody who sits there every day and goes, you know what, I really like all of these bugs that never get fixed. There's some people who like exploiting bugs, right? But that doesn't mean they don't want all bugs fixed, right? So it's just the fact that placations I've never enjoyed, and it's probably why a lot of people like take what I say in the wrong way, because I'm so bored of placating people. Like when it comes to that stuff, it's not somebody who I ever will be, and it's not somebody who exists in this body. So it's just the fact that like it's just the fact that it's over the years I've developed like different sentences that I just say because I know for a fact that they're true and they're easy to say, and I know that every time I'm gonna get the same responses back. It's going to be, why is it my job to do this? Or I don't have the time to do this. Why doesn't somebody else do it? And whenever I run into problems in real life or in general, my mindset is always, okay, this is broken. How do I fix it? And even if I do like a botched job, or even if I like try a bunch of different things and they don't work, at least I know what is not working and what is not going forward. And then as I do more of those things, I then become better at those things. Therefore, it takes less time. Therefore, I can focus on all of the other things that I was doing previously. And then you just keep in this standard rotation of doing this stuff. Or nothing ever changes, and you just turn around and just say the same thing year in, year out, and everything just becomes mind-numbing. And then you become one of those people who watches morning TV with, I don't know, Frank on there, like telling you how to make a very simple set of like, I don't know, pancakes with coffee syrup in them, because ooh, isn't that zany? You know, or maybe you could try do stuff. That's always been like my mindset with things. And I remember like a few years ago, I ran into a lot of sets of people in War Thunder, which were what I would call people who just like to complain about things. And they're still around, they still exist. They're a little bit quieter now because they can't keep just saying the same mantras over again, like game dead, game dead, game dead, why is gauging shit, why is gauging shit. They're a little bit less loud because, well, it just turns out they're wrong and they always were wrong. But I caught a lot of flack over the years for saying pretty much just standard truths. And it's nice to see nowadays that there's a lot of people who believe in that stuff, because it was never a belief, it was always just a fact. But at the same time, it's just nice to see people, you know, saying that stuff. And it just took a very long time to get there for a lot of people to realize. But yeah, it's just how it is. Hey Juan, nice to see you. I see Two String Push. Yeah, I'm doing good. We're just doing the tech talk. But yeah, I'll never enjoy placations. I'll never enjoy excuses, no matter how much validation or how much they are validated as excuses. Like if it's completely true, I still won't ever just sit there and go, oh well, yeah, that's fine. Because once again, it's just complaining about stuff to complain and not do anything about it. I've never been about that life in anything that I've ever done. So, you know. Complaining always has to have some kind of purpose. Complaining to complain, and then when offered solutions, turn around and just go, nah, don't think so. Like, I've got all this other stuff going on. Oh, well, then just focus on that stuff, make it more efficient, so now you got more time to do other things. You know, maybe that's the way forward, you know? So we have Traga. I just wish gunners had an ammo counter and an optional can reload mid-flight. This is mainly because I play sim. Yeah, it would be nice. There was a guy actually who made a really cool suggestion for that. that was passed to developers like a year ago. So basically every gun, if you went into third person, it was kind of similar to Bomber Crew, where every single gunner had like a belt next to them, and then as they used the general stuff, and they put it in the X-ray mode, so it wouldn't just be there all the time. But basically, it would just show you how much percentage of the belt they had left while they were firing, and then obviously you could add in a manual reload. That would be really nice. I don't know why they haven't done a system like that. I feel like bombers in general, they're just one of those things that kind of just exists right now. Like a lot of the game has been tailored much more around like strike aircraft and much more around, vehicles like that instead of standard bombers. So I'm hoping that in the future we can start getting a few more mechanics like that instead of more stuff which just kind of benefits like high tier strike aircraft. But we'll see. I mean, anything I suppose is possible at the end of the day with those things. So then we have Common Sense. Such a refreshing take on unnecessary difficulty and restrictions, and just the bad attitude of get good, etc. in gaming. As a disabled 50-plus person who just discovered and started playing War Thunder 2 years ago, I absolutely love the game as I'm a military history buff. Both grandfathers fought in World War II for Britain and Germany. Oh, there you go. But sadly, only a 1-to-1 KD average player, but I do the dirty stuff for my team, like capping points and bombing bases, etc. And I really, really enjoy the variety of gameplay styles that all seem to add to the experience and somehow balance the game at the same time. It's just wonderful. I don't like that I'm still grinding ranks 5, 6, 7 after 2 years of steady play, but that's kind of part of the weird draw of the game as well. Yeah, the grind is part of the game, and that's another thing that I feel like that's one of those just unaccepted truths once again, which is just never going to be allowed. Like whenever Gaijin bring it up, it's a PR disaster, even though it's correct. Like there are some people who just like to grind in games, and they like, oh look, I got this modification, and oh look, I got this new daily done. I'm one of those people. Like I'm very achievement focused when it comes to video games. Like if there's an achievement to get or a challenge to get, that's what I do. But yeah, the accessibility stuff is super important. And also as more, as people get older, like life expectancies increase, and also at the same time, as, more people are born with more adverse conditions, mainly because, well, previously they would just die. Like, let's be honest about it. Now there's more chance at life than ever for people. Basically, it's very important to have these systems in games. And it's something I've never liked the whole mentality of the get good thing. I completely agree, because there's just a lot of people who are hamstrung, which will just never be able to do what other people do, right? That's why, I mean, we've talked about it before, like when it comes to different things. Thank you for the subscription, Dr. Wolfpack. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much. But we've talked about it before when it comes to certain things, right? Like the competitive side of stuff. Like there's a lot of YouTubers who, or just streamers or whatever, who are pretty decent at the game. Like I'm pretty decent at the game, but I'm not on their level, right? Like they're just like a tier above everybody else. And I've made the comment many times over the years that just because this individual can do this thing doesn't mean that everybody can. Whether it's like PC related or hardware related, whether it's, just like their ability in general, and, you can't improve that in those specific ways. It just sets up like this kind of standard which is so high that the average person is not ever going to get access to. So the reviews that I see on a lot of the vehicles and how you play them is just heavily focused around those ideas, and it's just never going to work. Because like whether it's like the expert crew, whether it's like the ace crew, whether it's just the fact that, let's say, a person doesn't have the same like reaction time, or doesn't have like the same motor skills as another person, or anything like that, it's just very hard to kind of
see them represented, for that thing. So, yeah, it's been nice over the last few years that that has been something that people have prioritized in games. And I know there's always like this there's always like a bunch of people who don't understand why it's done. Like why systems are put into games or are put into media which represents certain smaller demographics. And in video games, it's basically down to the fact that there is a lot of people out there who benefit from these systems, and video games has been touted as something for everybody, so it's supposed to be for everybody. The other thing as well, I think, which is like super important with these types of things, is experience. There's something that we looked into a little bit ago, and I kind of want to do it. I don't understand how I'm going to do it, but I'm thinking about it. So over the years, like we talked about like my work with House Hospice. I've done some other volunteer work when I was at university, and also, hey, there you go, we got a French profile pic. And also, due to different life circumstances, I have had a lot of experience with people who are not fully abled. I don't know how else you put it. Well, disabled, I suppose. And whether it's like a mental thing or whether it's like a physical thing. Like my grandfather's sister, for example, she had polio when she was younger and lost her legs. So what they did in the house, since she always had to use a wheelchair, was they set up a system which had rails around every single one of the rooms. So if she wanted to move around the house because it was like an old house and wasn't designed for somebody who was in a wheelchair, what she would do is she would actually go up to the system. She had like hooks with things that used to come down. She'd hook herself in, and then she would dodge off to a different part of the house. Now, to a standard person, that just sounds ridiculous, right? Because, well, why would you ever want to do that? I can just walk through this thing. But for her, that just wasn't the case. So it was a system that was designed for her to be able to do the standard stuff that other people take for granted. And I think it's really important to have some kind of situation, or to have something where people, like, I was thinking at some point in the future, like some kind of charity thing. Like imagine if there was like a charity, or imagine if there was a setup where it was called, I don't know, like Other Life or something, or you could even call it Freaky Friday. And the idea is you transplant somebody who is more able-bodied, or transplant somebody who's trying to work in a sector which deals with like disability, and you basically go, okay, so today what we're going to do, or for a week, you're going to live this person's life. So if the individual is in like a wheelchair, or if, they can't move by themselves, that's what you're going to do for a day. So you're going to do all of the standard stuff that this individual usually does with like the assistants that they have and all of that stuff. And you're going to sit down and you're going to learn like how all this stuff goes. So then in the future, when you're actually making decisions on these things, because if you didn't know, like when it comes to a lot of these different things, the people who actually make a lot of decisions for, how disabled people are supposed to live or any of these things are just not disabled. They're just standard people, and they're there because they have a degree in something, which once again makes people's statistics on a page, right? Which just sucks. So I think it would be super important for that. Kind of like the same idea as before a politician runs for office, they have to live at the basic level of like a human for 1 or 2 years, right? Hey Anna, one, real nice to see you. Like the idea that what would be important is, okay, if you live at the lowest rung of society for a year without any help from anything, and you just do that to understand what these people go through. Kind of like that whole thing they did in the UK with My Undercover Boss, where basically the boss of the area, or the boss of the company, went to like one of the really low level jobs to be able to kind of experience what it was like for their average worker. I think that should be something that's heavily promoted when it comes to society. And I might do something with it in the future, we'll see. But that's more to do with my actual proper life and not this stuff. So yeah, sometimes it crosses over, and maybe one day we'll cover all that stuff, who knows. But yeah, it'll be fun when we do. You have a question? Go ahead, Real. Hit 'em up. What is your wonderful question? Do I have to buy a rank 5 tank to get the mouse, or can I just have rank 5 unlocked? I believe it's just rank 5 unlocked, but if I were you, you have enough time to be able to get access to rank 5, so I would focus on getting the rank 5 stuff. Just focus on pushing it, you know, before the good old mouse comes, so you can get it sorted. But usually it's just unlocked, but don't rest on your laurels. Things change when it comes to War Thunder quite a lot. Let's see. So then we have Wi-Fi Soldier. Let's see what Wi-Fi Soldier says. I hope something happens with the BR. The Char B1 BIS is basically useless at this point because 9 out of 10 games you're fighting Panzer 4Gs with 80mm of armor plus 20mm of track armor and the long 75. You can't kill them where they can kill you so easily with 1,000 meters, not to mention Shermans and T-34s. There are some vehicles that need to just die. We talked about this in the past. A lot of the overpowered vehicles at lower tiers were heavy tanks. A lot of them have now been fixed. Usually the mouse comes back for the anniversary space duck, so just as a point. But yeah, so the Char B1 BIS, if you ever played it back in the day, when a lot of the BRs were similar to each other, it was insanely broken. The only thing that ever kept it in check was stuff like the Stuarts and the M4A3, and all of those have gone up in BR because they were crazy strong. So the B1 BIS has the same life as many other heavy tanks. You're either useful and you are meta and you work really well, or you're worthless. At the moment it's worthless, but that can always change. I don't think it's positive for the game for those types of vehicles to be able to take over certain areas, unfortunately. It's just something that doesn't work very well in general. 2 seconds, my father's calling me. Sorry, he was just checking in on me. We usually call a bit earlier, but we didn't have a chance. I think the clocks moved, didn't they? For the clocks moved for people. Yeah, I'm having an issue with the Dr. Wolfpack. They're not turning up for me, so hopefully they get there. But yeah, my father and I have been talking about the Rugby World Cup a lot, so it's been quite good, you know, going through watching it and stuff. He played a lot of rugby when he was younger, and obviously I did too, but yeah, no more, I suppose. Clocks moved last night? Oh, well, there you go. Sorted, mate. I think for me they move in like 2 months. Right, can we... Right. One or two things. Just as a world. Can we either remove daylight savings time? Right? Just remove both sets. There's no need, just get rid of it now. And also, if you are going to keep it, could we at least unify it across the world? Because as a person who deals with a lot of people from other countries for my work, and also family and stuff, because of how, you know, the world works nowadays, you know, interconnectivity, yada yada, Jesus, is it a pain having to do all this stuff all the time. Oh, it's such a pain. Like, the clocks go forward, they go backwards, they're all over the place. Like, it's just a mess. Like, I know for a fact what my father will say tomorrow when I call him is like, you don't usually call during this time, and I'll be like, oh well, daylight savings ain't gone, is it? And he'll go, oh, you know, like you do all those, yeah, GMT only. Everything else cringe. GMT based. Simple as. Nothing else is allowed. But yeah, just as a point. Oh dear. I wish I was on EST. If I was on EST, it would make life a lot easier. Because pretty much everything when it comes to War Thunder is set up way more for EST than PST. Like if I was like +3, my life would just be so much easier. Like when it comes to all the War Thunder stuff. Because like, so for example, a lot of the first announcements for the day happen when it's like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. for me. So I only get around to them at like 6 or 7 after work. So if I was on EST, that would be around 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., which would actually be better for me because that's usually when I start wrapping up stuff for work-wise. So, like, it would just make it easier to do. But, yeah, it's just how it is. Let's move back to the UK. Well, you know, I did give it a go. But c'est la vie. Life threw me a curveball, didn't it? So then we have Maxwell. Gay Soytech. Hope you're alright. Gay? How'd you say that? Gay? I don't know. Kind of cool. What's the best looking tank in your opinion? Do a tiny review of why you like it. Mine is the C2A1 Leopard Mexus. Oh. Yeah, the Mexus isn't bad. The best looking tank is the Chieftain. The Chieftain Mark III. And that's basically because I grew up with it. So it's the tank which I always felt actually fit the gun properly. And the turret itself fits perfectly when it comes to the hull. And generally it just has a nice shape to it. There's no weird angles on it. There's no weird curves that don't really fit. It all flows extremely well and doesn't look fake, which is another thing a lot of the tanks do. So a lot of these like proper uniform like prototype vehicles, they just look really fake, where the Chieftain looks real. So yeah, the Chieftain is definitely the one that looks the nicest out of pretty much all of them. The issue with the Chieftain though is in game it's pretty poor, but it doesn't matter. The fact it can run on anything as well is quite funny as well. Like, hey, you can run this on cooking oil. Oh, fantastic. How does it run standardly? Oh, it's not very good. Oh, dear. So you've basically just made an engine that can run on anything, but it's trash. Yes. Lovely. Fantastic. Hey, Hassan. Nice to see you, man. Hopefully you're doing good. Hopefully everything's alright. Oh, good old Maybach. Never learned. They never learned, ever. Always the princess, never the queen. So then we have Warbird. Level valuation on Alaska. Drop a skyscraper on B from one of the sides like ARC. Levolution. Yeah. I was thinking about it last week actually about Levolution. As I said, Split Second was the best Levolution game by far, and it came out way before Battlefield decided to do the Levolution stuff. Hey Q Durgy, nice to see you. The other thing as well for Levolution is it reminded me of the film Evolution. If you haven't ever seen the film Evolution, I highly recommend it because it has some of the worst CGI in history. And also at the same time, I won't spoil it, but it is just such a ridiculous film on how they actually solve the issue that pushes ahead. But yeah, just go watch Evolution. It's got that guy from Jurassic Park in it. I can't remember his name. The dude who looks at the dung heap and is like, whoa. Like that guy. Whoever played that guy, the dung heap dude. But it's such a weird movie, Evolution. But really, really fun. So yeah, give that a go. But I mean, they could add They could add like Levolution to the game. I just don't think they should. Dave Duchovny, is that his name? No, it's not Chris Pratt. Wait, never mind. I've just straight up race swapped somebody. Orlando Jones. I don't know. No way. For some reason in my head, I thought Orlando Jones was Jeff Goldblum. I don't know why I thought they were the same person. Wow. Okay, that's very bad. But yeah, he's like. But anyway, Evolution is a good one. It's got Julian Moore in it. It's got David Duchovny, however you say his name. Sean William Scott, who's Stifler. It has Orlando Jones, obviously. Ethan Suplee from My Name is Earl. He plays the brother. Did I tell you I have a PC Wuthering account? Well, you did now. So there you go. And then also Sarah Silverman's in it. But luckily she doesn't play a huge part. Because I just can't stand Sarah Silverman. She's one of those incredibly just preachy narcissists. So thank God she doesn't play a huge role. So there you go. Today Battlefield 4 turns 10 years old. Oh my. Goddamn. That's crazy to think about. We did play the campaign last year. It was okay. I enjoyed it. I like how Call of Duty, by the way, is... So they're basically doing the open world campaign idea in their new Call of Duty. And they're saying it's revolutionary, which is what pretty much Battlefield 4 did 10 years ago now. So, hey, hey. Deja vu. So then we have Anonymosu. Storms are not fun in small boats, especially gunboats. Yeah, they're awful. They're really poor. Like, anybody who's asking for these adverse weather conditions when it comes to naval either doesn't play naval or only plays very large ships. Because anybody who has played small boats knows exactly, or any just coastal in general, apart from frigates, knows exactly what happens, even in the weather conditions we have now. It is absolutely abysmal to play. You just sit there and you just... like you're vibing, but you can't hit anything, and you're just waiting for somebody to kill you because you can't kill them. It's awful. Like, it's real. Imagine if you were playing a tank, and the whole time you're playing the tank, it's just doing this. That's what happens. It's really, really bad. Like, it's very icky, no good. So yeah. It's just no good. So then we have NYC Koyaks, fun name. Hi Tech, hello. How do I achieve that orangey color of graphics like you have? I don't think it's just post effects, if even. Is that DLSS or what? Thanks. Orangey graphics? Orangey graphics. Well... So, PostFX is this. So, that's all I run. If you want to actually make the game look nicer, what you do is you change it to contrast, and then you put it on polynom. But mine right now is, I need to screw the settings. Because you can see the ship looks really nice, but everything else just looks... You know, it's a bit egregious. The basic ways, I don't really change anything. When it comes to settings nowadays, I actually run it as pure as can be. So maybe it's my monitor settings. I don't run any secondary stuff. Like I don't run any effects or anything on NVIDIA because, as I said, I don't think it's very fair when people run that stuff. So yeah, it's just kind of the standard game. Maybe it's like a filter I have that I put on like years ago and I just don't remember, but yeah. Hey Crazy Trucker, nice to see you, man. Doing great, brother. We're just doing the tech talk. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully life's treating you good. Hopefully you've had a good few months. It's always nice, as always, to see people. Hopefully you're doing good. Right, so then we have Taylor. The good old Swifty. The Japanese AM-1 is an AIM-9E equivalent, not some 90s missile. Well, what the hell was the one I was thinking of then? Because there's definitely one from that era, which is... What's the missile on the F2? I'm good. I had to get a tire replaced as I rubbed against the curb while driving the other night. Shit. Well, as long as you're okay, tires can be fixed. Is it the AM3 I'm thinking of, or something like that? Yeah, there we go. I was thinking of the AM3. It's a short-range all-aspect air-to-air missile developed in Japan, and it's been officially operated since 1991. So that's the one I was thinking of. So my bad. I have no idea what the AM one is. I'm sure it's a fantastically random missile that they could add, which will completely revolutionize the way that those Japanese vehicles will work and definitely change their BRs. So yeah, should be fun. You're unharmed? Good stuff, man. That's great to hear. Stuff like that sucks. Oh, I'm glad you're okay. So then we have Biso Indupsudo. Yes. Why not add the weather effects and just let people with only a certain level of graphics play these kind of events? It's doable for the first comment. You want events to be as accessible to people as possible. And also, it isn't... Because of the fact that in War Thunder you can change graphic settings, you would have to remove the ability to change graphic settings. There's also no way for War Thunder to actually work out what hardware you have in that way, or at least it doesn't use that against you. So you would have to hardware lock people in that setup, right? So, yeah, one of the things that has always struck me as interesting to look at is what people actually think others have in terms of PCs, right? So what people game on, because the average person, at least from who I've talked to, always believes that people game on much higher end PCs that actually exist, right? So a lot of people, for some reason, think everybody's running around with mega PCs, which is just not the case. Like, so let's see, Steam average PC specs. So they did a Steam hardware and software survey September 2023, right? So this is basically just what people are using and what people are going. So the standard display setting is 1920 by 1080. 60% of people have that, right? Okay. Now, if you actually have a look at the video cards that people have access to, okay, so 6% of people have the 3060, right? 5% of people have access to the 1650, and another 5% have the 1060. 3% have the 1050 Ti. So most people at this moment in time still are on the 20 and 10 series compared to others, right? The amount of people who actually have the 40 series, so the 4070 specifically, is 0.92% of people, right? And if you actually have a look at the vast majority of individuals, so 10% of people are on either the 1650 or the 1060, right? And then add 5% more people who are on the 2060 at the moment. So that's 15% of people right there. The amount of people who have 4000 series graphics cards, right, is approximately 3%, 3.5% maybe 5%. Because you've got the 4070, the 4070 Ti, the 4090 and the 4060 Ti, right? Those are the ones that are available. So 0.6 plus 0.7 plus 0.8 plus 0.9. right? So you've got about 4% of people who actually have the super mega death graphics cards. So if you think about that, the amount of people that you're aiming for there is incredibly small for these kind of graphical settings. Now, if you actually expand it to the 3000 series, you've got about maybe 25-30%. Okay? So you've already got to a point where you're picking a mode which not everybody's going to play, because not everybody plays all the modes in War Thunder. And now you're limiting the event to people who only have certain systems, which you can't tell what they have, unless if they can tell, then that means that they have access to everything on your PC, just like stuff like Valorant has, by the way. You know, I can't remember what it's called, but like a kernel system or whatever. Can't remember the actual verbiage, right? So you have to give up all of that information to the game company in order to get access to this event. So there's going to be an accept or a decline on that stuff. And then on top of that, once again, you are going to limit it to 2 sides of play for specific events. So if you think about the amount of people who are actually going to benefit from something like this, compared to the amount of people that don't benefit from something like this, you're looking at about a 95 to a 5% ratio. So what you've effectively done is you've created something in the game which benefits, well, not even 5%. So maybe, let's say 3%, right? So that benefits 3%, that 3% of people have access to, compared to the 97%. Who do you think is going to be annoyed? Or who do you think that like 97% of people are going to be okay with all this? How something specifically has not been created for them, right? I think the answer is no. I think they might be a bit annoyed. Because, you know, if in standard business, unless you have a very, very high-end product, which the value is nowhere near what it actually, you know, is supposed to be, then it's just not going to work. That's why stuff like DCS will never take over stuff like War Thunder. That's why, you know, games which are designed for very high-end ideas or anything like that are never going to eclipse the games which are more made for the standard individual. There's just more of those middle games, so it's harder to stand out. Think about like Crysis, right? Like everybody always talks about Crysis and how interesting it is with like its you know, it's different it was like a badge of honor if you were able to run Crysis and all that stuff. But the amount of people who actually played those games compared to the amount of people who actually talked about them because they couldn't get access to them is a lot less. So, fun times. But yeah, so it's just a cost of time thing. You're not going to make something you're not going to make something which is designed for that amount of small people, because it isn't just the fact that it's only going to be available for a few people. It's the fact by doing a setup like that, you have now annoyed a metric ton of other people by doing it, which you can't do in a business like this, because they might just leave because they don't feel catered to. Whether that's right or wrong, it's just how it goes. So then we have to be Parastol. Sorry, what does it say? What do you think is more important to Gaijin as of right now? Making a fun game or making as much money as possible? I don't think Gaijin is a single entity, because no business is a single entity, which is why I really dislike how in law a lot of businesses are seen as a single entity. I think there's a bunch of different parts which go hand in hand to create something, right? The other thing you've also got, right, so One of the things that's super important to do from just like an individual point of view, and by the way, and this thing is something that has to be sorted, right? When they talk about stuff, people just need to like listen to what they say. And I know it's really easy just to go on the narratives that people pull out when you hear like a 10-second clip from like an interview. But what I would massively say to people is just listen to the whole thing and what they usually say if they're doing these like Q&As or if they're doing these like live streams about things. Because sometimes what happens is people just hear like snippets of things and it just is a way to drive narratives in either a positive or negative way. In order for them to make the most money, they also have to make the funnest game. So in order for them to maximize profits, they also have to make everybody happy to spend money on the game. So when you attract enough people into the game, then you can start increasing monetization in different areas, which is the stage that we're in now. So you have some people who are employed to maximize the money side of things, and then you have some people who are employed to maximize the fun side of things. And then they're going to be in a constant battle against each other in order to make the game work, right? So in order for the company to make as much money as possible, they also need to work on the game being fun and not just a drag. Because if the game just becomes a drag, then nobody plays it anymore. Right? So it isn't just one or the other, it's a percentage of both. Which is how, as I said, every single company works. It will never be 100% one way or the other. Because 100% one way is technically what we class as a charity, even though most charities don't work like that. And if it's 100% the other way, it goes bankrupt very quickly. Hey Bruce Invincible, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good. Hopefully everything's alright and you're doing well. So it's just a mixture of both. Because one just doesn't exist without the other. I think generally the vast majority of the team that is working on War Thunder is focused on making the game fun and making it enjoyable. Because I've talked to a lot of them. And that's basically what it goes, you know? Well, these are the same hosts as last time, Gift agreed. It'll keep getting bigger because the population of the game keeps getting bigger. But the real question is, when you remove the random free stuff that everybody's there for, then what happens? Because technically you could get the same outreach doing something else without pumping a bunch of money into it, you know? Hey Liberator, nice to see you. Yeah, I feel better compared to yesterday. Feel alright. Feel good. Hopefully you're doing well. So then we have Eddie Max. Where and when can I ask Tech about something? In my time zone, it's a bit difficult to get on time. Well, I mean, you can do it here in the Tech Talk, or you can. I have on the Discord, I have a Q&A for Tech Room. So people just ping me with their questions, and then we kind of go through them and chat about stuff. People can DM me, but as I've said previously, there's a bit of an issue with DMs on Discord where, like, Discord added this thing like a year or two ago, and it's very annoying. It's like a pre-screening process. And I don't know what goes into it, but it means that a bunch of people's DMs and stuff just disappear. And I can't ever see them. It's kind of like how, like, sometimes YouTube will just make comments disappear. I have no idea why. And, you know, when people have been like, hey, why do you delete my comments? I haven't. And I've even showed them, like, the moderator thing, and nothing is there. Like, I don't understand why the thing isn't there. Like, YouTube is just such a weird thing sometimes, but Discord does the same thing. pre-moderation just annoys me because it means that I can't see what I want to see, which is of course never gonna be good or never gonna be fun, which kind of sucks. But yeah, so the Discord Q&A for Tech Room, obviously the live stream, in the Tech Talk itself. I mean, that's pretty much the different areas. You're on standby for work. So far nobody's called, so I'll stay that for the next 11 hours. Oh, fair. Played War Thunder for a while, but the teammates made me almost pull my hair out. So I went and played modded Skyrim. Ooh, that might be nice. Modded Skyrim's fun. I have at some point, we're going to go through my Skyrim stuff. Kind of show you around. I haven't played it in like 5 years, but it's always a game, like sometimes I just like to go back to and just wander around and see things. It's a fun game. You know, it's a good part of gaming history. So we have just for YT. I have an idea for a new game mode called Realistic Sim. In Realistic Sim, your tank, your pick matters. So if you take a World War II German tank, your engine, transmission, etc. might go out during the match. Oh, so like it just adds in all of the factors which, you know, we take for granted, I suppose, in War Thunder. So you can't ever... So any prototype that never went to production, you just can't take. Or does it take into account, like, fatigue of the crew? And all those things? It sounds like a fun idea to do for, like, maybe one game and then never touch again. Because, as we've talked about, like, RNG things that can happen to you that you have no control over is not very fun game mechanics. Like, oh, looks like I just got screwed again. Like, it's not very enjoyable, you know. The only reason I would be fine with it existing in a small way is just if it could show people how annoying stuff like that would actually be. Like how awful it would be just to have all that happen to you, you know. Yeah, they could also add in you have to go through all of the standard checks to actually get the bird moving, like for the pilots, or maybe you had to control everything on the ships. Can you imagine that? That'd be funny as hell. Yeah, you gotta get through all of the standard things. That'll be funny. But as I said, it'll be funny for a weekend and then never again, because it would just be a pain, you know. Your tank gets hit by HE, so your crew just leave, you know, or everybody's just dazed, so they can't do anything. Oh, come on, man. It's not very fun. Yeah, exactly. You have all the mini sailors running around the ship, yeah. So we have Casper S. Pra. It's a fun name. Dude, you're doing a good job on the War Thunder info. I'm a fan, but I think it's false to call them videos. It's more podcast-like. Random video, usually gameplay with no connection to talking, you know? I mean, fair. Like, you can call them whatever. Like, usually, a lot of the videos that I do, like, so the dev blogs obviously are about the vehicles themselves. They only show the vehicles specifically. When we talk about the news, I try and use footage for whatever the thing is that I'm trying to talk about on that day, but it's not always possible to do because of the fact that, you know, it's one of those things that is... what's the word? It's one of those things that isn't as open or as applicable all the time. Like we talked about it when doing like the BR changes videos. Like number one, all the stuff I do online is not my primary occupation. So everything I do here, I don't have as much time as other people who do as a primary occupation. So in order to get certain piece of content out, sometimes like little things have to be missed out. unless it's going to take me like a week to be able to make like certain videos. Like for example, stuff like BR changes videos. It would just take me so long to be able to do stuff. But a lot of the videos are based around, either concepts, certain vehicles I talked about, certain maps that I talked about. But yeah, some of them are just like discussion videos about standard concepts in War Thunder and how they work, or how everything goes. And yeah, maybe I could label them as podcasts. But the thing is, at the end of the day, it just doesn't matter what I label them. Like, I don't know how else to put it. It doesn't matter if because this type of podcast is also a video, right? Like you can either take it in an audio way or you can take it in a visual way. That's the whole point. And that's why like the tech talks themselves are labeled as podcasts. But if I just did podcasts, I mean, I could technically just do podcasts and just stick them on whatever podcasting app I felt like. But at the same time, there's not really much point in me doing that because everything's just here. The reason why I do this stuff the way that I do is because I enjoy it, and it works the best for me. But then also at the same time, it is the easiest way to kind of give people the easiest access to the content, so therefore they can they can consume it in how they want. So if they want to do it in an audio way, they can do. If they want to do it in a video way, they can do too. And that's good. That's what I like to do. I don't like limiting it to like specific ideas. The only issue I've ever really had when it comes to stuff like that is if I ever want to like put stuff like in an audio way to like other areas, but it's just monetarily, there's just no point in it. But yeah, I mean, it's just how it is. I don't really mind how people label different stuff. I've never really enjoyed the labeling stuff. The content is much more discussion orientated and news orientated than just standard gameplay orientated. But that's kind of what the streams are for, right? Like we discuss things, we talk about things, and also we play all the vehicles, or at least try to. Next year I'm going to get way more into trying to sort out a lot of that type of thing. So we'll see how it goes going forward. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to go on a full-on like spading spree next year, which is something we did like a few years ago, and it was super fun. So should be nice. I have like these really cool like packs that I want to open, but I want a reason to open them basically. So that's what I'm focusing on, which should be good. So yeah, should be nice. Wouldn't it be nice if we were hunting? Of course it would be. So next one, we have Danny Pargo. Let's see. Only up to yourself with the Hungarian BTR 18. It will be better fighting IFEs instead of IS3s and Tiger 2s. Yeah, I mean, it's, no, so basically we have 12 packs, Donnie. So I'll show you guys what it is, okay, before we get into this one. So this is the thing, right? So it's collector boosters for the Lord of the Rings thing. So this is like the El Primo packs that you can get. And there's 12 of them in a pack. So what we're going to do is when we spade a end of the line vehicle, we're going to open one of these. I also have another pack coming of kind of alt art ones. So that one will also be for that. So next year we're going to really ramp up the spading. Now that we can research helicopters with ground vehicles, it makes stuff a lot easier. So. And then for standard packs, it's whenever we spade a vehicle. I'm working out whether it should be ranked 4 or 5 upwards. So that's just like a standard thing. Sorry, back to the question. Yeah, I mean, you can up tier yourself in the BTR if you want to. It's something that is possible to do. It probably fits better at that BR, but also, as I've said many times, I never like up-tiering vehicles. It just feels bad to do it, so I would much prefer not doing it. and just letting the game kind of do it itself. It just kind of sucks that a lot of the time there is a lot of stuff like that where you have to kind of force it to in certain ways, and it just never feels good. How is there a chaparral in this game? What? Oh, I got fully upted. But yeah. Hey Resnor, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing good today. Then we have, well, we have a rookie with timestamp on the plus or minus 0.7. I mean, the timestamps were done, so if people want to see them, they can see them. And we talked about it and how it works. My general thing is the same thing I've always said. I just don't think it affects the stuff that people think it affects in a big way, and can also be done in different areas, like I've said previously. So we have Papa Stalin, or Earl of Millennium Dawn, as he's known. By the way, the reason why I call Papa Stalin is because he used to be called Papa Stalin, but the reason he changed his name is because I think it was on Twitch. They said that it was like a political name or something, or there was something wrong with the name. Like he wasn't allowed to be called Papa Stalin, so instead he's just called Earl of Millennium Dawn. There's a lot of people like that where I just remember like their old names and what they used to be called, because so many people have changed their names over the years. It is actually kind of nuts. So. Like, I remember their original names, like, Sarge Moon. Like, Sarge Moon is not called Sarge Moon, but I know him as Sarge Moon. So, yeah. Twitch got annoyed at a piss take. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Salutations, second chat. Monet, when we admit that France is just shit, you can't even win a war against farmers from 2 third world countries, Massabel. If you ask me, as for you, Tech, what is your current favourite game of the year so far? My favorite game out of the ones that we've played is Bramble the Mountain King, I believe it's called. Yeah, Bramble the Mountain King. It's actually it was 40% off in June. It's is it 40% off now? It is. So it's like $20 right now, and it was a fantastic experience. If you like stuff like Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, if you like stuff like that, it has a wonderful art style. It covers Scandinavian folklore, and basically, you're going through it trying to find your sister and, run into all of the folklore characters, and it's just wonderful. Still, yeah, pretty much, man. Like it really was amazing to play. There's a ton of other games we've played that have been fantastic too this year, but that one definitely stands out. Like, if I have a look at the games that we've played, I mean, We Were Here was nice. I don't know if Gates of Hell actually brought out their thing. If it was about or not. Right. But now we played a ton of stuff this year. I'd have to have a look. But Bramble the Mountain King literally sticks in my head from that long ago. It would have been so hype if France actually got to the World Cup final with the rugby, but c'est la vie. Another well-fought battle between them and New Zealand. Just sucks. Sucks how the World Cup final went, man. It wasn't a very good representation of the game. Let's see. There we go. I just have to get a crit, and usually in aviation they just run into the ground, so... So we have quarter poundering your mum. Why not a half pound? Did you ever hear that story about the Burger King thing? Where Burger King... I don't know if it's true or not, or if it's just folklore. Hey, Weird Plays Games, nice to see you. I've been playing War Thunder for about 10 years now. But I don't know if it actually happened or not. But like, there was this thing where like the quarter pounder came out for McDonald's and it was like a super big success. People really liked it. So then Burger King or another fast food place brought out the half pounder. because, you know, hey, it's like more meat and everything. But it never took off because people believe that the half pounder, there was less of it than the quarter pounder because it was a smaller number. And I refuse to believe that. I I 100% refuse to believe that that is the case. Because if that is the case, then we are doomed. As just a general thing, people believing that half is less than a quarter, because 2 is smaller than 4. It can't be. So everything with a mango round should be 11-0 by your own admission. I don't know what this is in reference to, but I'm guessing it's probably something to do with balance, right? Someone was talking about why does this machine not get this missile or anything like that? Wasn't it a third and quarter pounder? Yeah, it could have been a third. Yeah, it might have been a third. It was something where it was bigger than the quarter pounder, but people thought it was less. But I don't know if it was actually true or not. I've heard it so many times, but I think it might be just one of those old wives' tales. So the balance, like when it comes to munitions on vehicles, it's very. I mean, Gaijin have literally said it themselves, right? They balance vehicles based on a bunch of factors, and one of the factors that they can do pretty easily is the factor of the ammunition. So let's say you have a vehicle which is a T-64, and then you add in a vehicle which is, let's say, I don't know, it's the same as a T-64, but it has no armor, and somehow it's heavier because it's got a really heavy engine on it, but it also produces less power, but it has like the same structure as it, but it also doesn't have a stabilizer, doesn't have the laser rangefinder, doesn't have anything else, but it has the mango round. So it has the 3BM42, then the standard T-64 also has the 3BM42, right? Let's say all of that's true. Just because they have the same round, all of the other factors are different, right? So they fundamentally can't be at the same BR unless you only believe that one factor matters in this kind of setting. And we have a ton of vehicles that are in game which are awful vehicles to play, but they have some kind of thing on it which makes them slightly usable at their BR. The AK-38, for example, you know, with its R60s at 9.3, it's still not dominating matches because, you know, it's still bad. It's really rough to play, even though it now gets access to 4R60s. And, you know, it just means that there are more things to look at from a vehicle than just what it carries in terms of ordnance. Like, ordnance is important, you know, especially when you're looking at vehicles which have similar characteristics, but there's a ton of vehicles in the game where people just don't think about their secondary factors at all. They just go, ooh, that missile or, you know, that gun is really good. It should be higher BR. Like, you know, the Puma, for example, right? If you just look at its gun, it shouldn't be a 10-0 vehicle. But if you look at all of its other factors, it's a 10-0 vehicle. And that's just kind of how all these go. Yeah, exactly. Like the Sturm S with the tandem warhead or the HE or the proxy missiles, right? Wow, these things are crazy. Look how much pen they have, you know, and all that. Yeah, but you don't know about the launching system. You don't know they can't fire on the move. You don't know about, you know, where the optics are or its elevation on it. It's just the fact that there's just a ton of different secondary factors to these things. So just like mobility, just like armor, just like ammunition, no single factor is the only thing that's considered in terms of balance of a vehicle, which is good. That's not how it should be. Hey, it's Aaron. Nice to see you. I'm doing good, man. We're just doing the tech talk and, you know, just having a bit of fun in standard arcade. Just trying to get a daily done as we chill out and enjoy the Sunday. Hopefully you're having a good Sunday. Hopefully the Sabbath's treating you well. So yeah, multiple things are just taken into account. Yeah, A&W restaurant released a third burger. in the 80s, but the majority of the participants thought it was smaller. But they are still making third burgers according to their blog and their official YouTube channel. I've got a feeling they might have renamed them, right? So yeah, that was the thing. So it was a third burger at A&W. A&W ads, like, you see so many of them up here, man. Like, and I mean, they're pretty boring, but c'est la vie. It's just how it is. But no, I'm doing good today. Like, happy with the day. Hopefully it's going well for you. Then we have Jeremiah Husson, which is a fantastic name, by the way. Always enjoyed Jeremiah as a name. I feel like it gets a little bit too much hate for its connotations, just because of the set of people it's usually to do with. I think in general it's one which I really, really enjoy as a name. Good old Jeremiah. I just want to shoot these guys down because these guys can be very annoying to deal with. I don't know how my rounds are missing, but there we go, there's one. We're just trying to get the bird hunt done, which is like the good old anti-air challenge for the daily. Howdy, just want some advice for a friend. He doesn't like World War II and only Cold War, just like me, but he's just starting the game. I want to tell him to get premium, but I don't want him to be unskilled in the game, and only have one tank at a BR80 plus. What should I advise him to do? Plus Cold War and the 5.0 is not great. Well, I mean, the main thing is to stop thinking about the game in terms of eras. But yeah, that's not going to happen because for some reason people always do it. Never understood why. The main thing to focus on is soon, probably in the next week, the premium time is going to go on sale, right? So once premium time is on sale, tell them to pick up like a year or 6 months or whatever. And then you'll be able to grind to the Cold War stuff within like a week or two. Like it's nuts how quickly you can grind with premium. It doubles the rate that you grind. And also once you get to that area, you never have to look back if you don't want to. So that's what I would always say to people. Use the lower tier stuff to gain experience in how maps work. And also the Cold War stuff you'll get to pretty quickly if that's what you're hell-bent on doing. But also, I would always say that the game is not focused around eras. So it isn't like this era versus this era, so on and so forth. You shouldn't see it in terms of eras, especially since whenever we discuss what is Cold War and what is not Cold War, we get some quite spicy answers every once in a while, so just to kind of let you know. But pretty much use the time that you have right now to get the premium time, and then use it to, kind of work out how to grind higher stuff, and then kind of go from there. Hey Team Valkyrie, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing alright today. Well, it is how it is, man. Like, it's never going to change. Right, so now we have just another Bob. Hello there, have a nice day, see ya. Well, thanks, Bob. That's very kind. I wanted to learn more about random ass Chinese ship number 5. Yeah, that's the other thing as well. Like, War Thunder isn't a simulator where you just play a vehicle, it's a multiplayer shooter. Yeah, if we actually... It might actually be much better if people saw War Thunder more like Call of Duty than a simulator game, where you're kind of picking the weapons that you're taking to actually go around the place with. Alright, there we go. Drops have been claimed. Thank you, RU stream. All sorted. So instead of it being a... instead of it being a game where you just focus on... which historic vehicle you're playing. See it as which gun you want to play that day. It would definitely, I feel like, aid and help out a lot of people with how they see these things. He literally just spawned next to me. Like, what is this? That can't be okay. He spawned like 2k away from me. That's so silly. And then we have Jesus Christ, Tech, go to bed. No, I'm good, thank you. I actually sleep like 6 hours a day now. Which is oh, there's just a guy staring at us. I actually sleep quite a lot, which is good. Like it's quite nice the amount that I'm able to sleep. Previously I only used to sleep 4 hours, but I used to be a lot more busy, which may sound weird since, you know, people see me as really busy nowadays, but yeah, nowadays I've slowed down compared to previously, you know? Like it's if you saw, like, I've always said, like, if you saw me at university, or if you saw me like the first few years after university and how hard I used to work, like I did nothing else. Like when it came to that stuff, I was working 14-hour days every day. Nowadays, I only do 12-hour days, or 14-hour days, depending on how you see it, every 6 days. So yeah, it's a very different way that I deal with stuff compared to many others. So yeah, always enjoyable, which is quite fun. Let's see. But hopefully, as you know, stuff changes and things are supposed to be easier to come by, you know, as you go around, so it should be good. Hey, I got the megaphone. There you go. We're megaphoned up. Did I get... Okay, I got one of the skins. So it seems like they don't work on the NA stream, but on the IRU stream, I actually got the two things. So there you go. Hey, Freeing Hills, nice to see you, man. Hopefully you're doing good. Then we have Orange Ranger. Nice to see you, Frosty. No to Rough Water. It doesn't work. Even Wargaming and WoW figured it out. Also, no to subs. They'll not work either. I am a bit worried that people are just trying to add more and more features to the game without thinking. But at the same time, with War Thunder, it's just going to constantly, you know, things are just going to constantly keep going as they go. So wouldn't really be too much of a surprise to see more and more things like that going forward. Don't think that'll change like at all. Personally, I think what we'll see, if anything, is what we've seen in aviation and ground. They're just going to keep adding random mechanics and then apologizing for them 6 months later when they've had to nerf them into the ground or buff them into the ground. And then we're just going to have the same conversations over and over again, you know? It's just kind of how it is. Hey, Lorico, nice to see you. Hopefully you're doing alright today. Let's see. Thank you for the subscription, Apocalucifer. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. It's very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Right, so that's all the questions from the YouTube part of the Tech Talk. Do you guys have any questions before we wrap it up for the YouTube stuff? You know? You're missing 9 minutes for the stupid megaphone? Well, have they stopped doing stuff now? I suppose you can do it next weekend, right? Like you got 2 more days to do it, right? Subs and aircraft for events. They did say, or there was a leak about the anniversary event being around that, so we'll see how that goes. Maybe we'll see a bunch of that stuff kind of going forward. I'm a bit worried about it. So hopefully it all works. And if it doesn't, then I suppose we'll just sit here and cry, which is generally it. Next weekend there's Twitch drops too. I think the way that they're doing it, so this weekend has the same drops as last weekend. And, this weekend has the same drops as next weekend. And then the weekend after, there's 4 new skins to get. Pretty sure that's how it goes. When will we see more Chinese aircraft? Well, they're adding one next update, aren't they? That J whatever H or whatever it's called. I can't remember its name. Got me a 10p 100 Years Turkish decal. Yeah, that one's quite nice. Have I watched any of TI? I watched some Team Spirit games. Those gents are absolutely on fire. I haven't watched any, but I want to, man. Like, the issue I'm having is it's on at a really awkward time for me. This TI. Like, I can't remember where it is, but when I look at the timings of everything, so it's in Seattle, right? And it ends. So the first stage is finished, and the issue with that is because I'm basically in their time zone, which you may think, oh, that's awesome, right? Yeah, the JH7, that's the one. That means that during my time zone, I can see the things. That's cool, right? No, because if stuff is on during my time zone, I'm usually here, or I'm usually, doing stuff during the day. So the best time zone for me to actually watch like esports stuff, even though I'm in NA, is European time zone. If it's like the League of Legends stuff, which is in Korea, then I can't watch any of it because it's just on at very, very poor times for me. And after the day is over, the thing that we've been watching is Gilmore Girls, because the missus says the way that Gilmore Girls works is you're supposed to watch it every October, every autumn, because it's an autumn show. I don't know why there's all these weird rules about things, but I've said to her I'll watch it this year with her, but then after that, like, she's on her own. She can watch it by herself. And then I know exactly what she's gonna do. So she is literally, like, she is way ahead of me on the smartness scale. So this year is Gilmore Girls, which we started at the start of September, by the way. It is now the end of October, and we are at a point where we still have 2 seasons to go. So that's pretty much just like my whole autumn just taken up by this Gilmore Girls thing. And next year, she's gonna hit me with the mega dump, which I know it's coming. It's gonna be bloody what's it called? It's gonna be Grey's Anatomy. She's gonna smash me with the Grey's Anatomy in the head. So basically, I'm just never gonna be free. Like, I'm just never gonna be free. Because that shit has like 18 seasons, if you didn't know. So I'm just gonna be sat there the whole year watching whatever this is. And then guess what's gonna come the next year? Oh, there's gonna be another autumn show. I'm literally just gonna break my own head. Thank God I work out every day, because what I do while I work out every day is watch the shows that I actually want to watch. Like, I've been watching Lupin and a few others, so yeah. Good afternoon, Snowman, nice to see you. So yeah. It's always fun. To be honest, like, Gilmore Girls is fine. It's just it's a pretty bog standard show. Like, I don't know. It's very similar to a lot of the other things. Like, I get why people like it, because it's the whole relatability thing, and it's the whole, like, oh, look at this character, aren't they cool, aren't they like me, yada yada yada. But yeah, for me, when it comes to like watching shows, I just prefer stuff which is kind of out of the thing. So yeah. You should make her play the Archer and M41D for a season. Well, that's what me and Alex were discussing earlier. If we're gonna continue to do this like charade, what has to happen is we have to have reciprocation. And there is a little bit of reciprocation because I watch like the NFL like on Monday nights and Thursday nights and sometimes Sundays. But that's more just like on the background while we do things. So I need to love you, bud. Been there. Doesn't get any better. How long? So far, like 6, 7 years, I think. So like it's not changing. It's been this way for a long time. It's just the problem is now like now she knows all my shit now. Like she knows how my brain works, and she knows when to hit. Like okay, this is something which is devious, which has happened for my whole life, and it's something that a lot of people have exploited over many years, and I'm not happy with it. But there's nothing I can do about it. So I'll go through it. Right, we talked about earlier, and we've talked about in the past how like so I haven't slept a lot like in my whole life, right? It's just one of those things I don't really do. Like I'm not a person who just sleeps. I don't know how else to put it. So what would happen when I was younger is my father, if I'd been out on a night out and I'd come back like really late, or I'd come back like the next day and I was just like shattered, he would wait until I was asleep and then he would sit in my room with me like after like an hour or two of me being asleep and talk to me, right? Now, obviously I have no recollection of these conversations, but because I was me, and I wasn't obviously thinking because I was technically asleep, I would tell him all of the stuff that went on. So it was his way of like working out what I'd been up to, and if anything needed to get done or if anything was gonna go wrong. And now my missus does the same bloody thing. not to work out not to work out like if I've ever done anything wrong, because hey, guess what, since I work quite a lot and I do this stuff, there's not really a lot of time to do bad shit. I don't know how else to put it. So instead, what she ends up doing is she gets me to like agree to like doing like certain things, like, hey, so there's this wedding next week, and oh, it's probably best that we go to it. And then I'm just like, yeah, well, whatever, like it's fine, we can go, and then it's like, oh yeah, but it's at like 11 a.m. on a Saturday. Oh well, I'm busy during that time. Oh well, you said you'd go, and it's our friends, and yada 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 yada. And yeah, so it's just something that happens like all the time for me. Like it's just I don't, my brain doesn't switch off. It never switches off. So even when I'm asleep, I have conversations with people. It's very annoying, and it's probably going to lead to a it's probably going to lead to like early onset Alzheimer's or something, because everything's always running at 100%, it feels like. But it's just funny to think about. Right, we'll finish the tech talk there with that, and on that bombshell, we'll see you next time. But yeah, so we'll continue to stream as we do, but also to everybody on the YouTube end, look after yourselves. Make sure to put some questions in the comments, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.